I'm coming. Oh, it's lagging. Whoa! Oh! No! Wait, missile launch, go!
Did yours get hit?
Hey, I'm going. I'm flying out. What you just saw was Advanced Warfare Warium, a brand new mod specializing in, well, warfare. And with the power of Valkyrien Skies, Valkyrien Warium was born, both by Novum, who absolutely beat the ever-loving crap out of M-Creator. Yes, the tool known for making stuff like this made this.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. Oh.
What? And yet, this mod's quality is off the charts. In fact, it's so in-depth, we can only really talk about one thing, the planes, which are shockingly easy to make. In fact, it's so easy, I was able to build one myself first try. To do so, the first thing you're going to need is a vehicle control node, along with the control seat. In order to link these and everything else together, you're going to need the vehicular wrench, which works in a similar way to the popular game scrap mechanic. Following that, control surfaces are one of the most important things in planes, as they're responsible for your pitch, your yaw, and of course, your roll maneuvers. There are two types of planes that I'm aware of, and they are propeller-based, which pulls you forward, and jet-based, which pushes you right into the sky. Both require an assembly of a jet compressor, jet turbine, and a fuel tank, top or bottom. But be careful, you always need to make sure that the exhaust side is facing the correct direction, as they should always point towards your chosen block. For example, if we flip this around and add a jet exhaust along with an afterburner, we have the right orientation for our jet engine. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's see if I can't make a plane of my own designs. Now take a looky here. If this isn't a plane, I don't know what is. So here's a bit of a rundown. The body is comprised mainly of aluminum plating, which comes in many colors, shapes, and sizes, including trapdoors. Now the reason you want to use aluminum plating in the first place is because each block only weighs 20 kilograms, which is way lighter than say an iron block. The wings are a little different as they're comprised of something known as slab wings, which will help to generate lift to, fly. Next up, we have the control surfaces on the wings. It is important to note that there are different types depending on where you want it on the block, with the ones that I chose being on the bottom third. And of course, the landing gear, in which there are 3 for structural stability. Now this backplane was constructed with vertical control flaps and stabilizers, allowing for greater control in the air. There we go. All we need to do now is set this up. Let's start by excavating an area for the propeller and its components, placing the jet compressor and making sure it's in the correct orientation. Finish it off with the jet turbine, the jet gearbox, and of course the propeller. And that's not right. So we do it again, but move it back a couple blocks. And that is perfect right there. I'm just gonna cover it up to my liking, and then check where the turbine is so we can go under it and place the fuel tank. And don't forget to dump it full of kerosene. Now it's time to link everything all together. Shift right click in the air will cycle through our modes. Always link with the core first. Then you can follow up with like the seat, the turbine, and anything else that might need to be linked, such as the control surfaces on the wings, on the tail flaps, and of course each block of the landing gear. Now it's time to configure all of this together, because when I tried to use the landing gear, it was facing the wrong way. Turns out, this means the front. So after replacing them all in the right direction, I switched the wrench to configure mode and set the length of each landing gear to 2, resulting in a much more feasible look. By configuring the control surfaces, we can cycle between different controls. I set the rudder flaps to yaw plus, allowing me to turn right and left. Configuring the tail fins to pitch minus allows me to use them as elevators to move up and down with the plane, with the wing flaps configured to go down in order to help with takeoff. Now the flaps on the edges of the wings are known as ailerons, and they're actually what make the plane roll. So I set a couple on the left to yaw plus, and a couple on the right to yaw minus, which lets me roll and turn in the same direction. Alright, let's fly. But before we do, I really need to ask you to please consider subscribing. These videos take a while to make, and I would really appreciate it. Anyway, back to the video. Let's fly! And just like that, we have instant takeoff. Don't forget to press B to disengage your flight gear. Now I was free to traverse the sky as I pleased. And let me tell you, a plane has never felt so good to control in my whole life. Sorry Clockwork, but this kinda takes the cake. For now. I was even able to perform a whole barrel roll. Alright, time to initiate landing. And stop. Another happy landing. Well, wasn't that a success? Here's another plane I built of the jet design, inspired by some of Novim's own builds. The only real differences between this plane and the previous one being the ailerons take up the whole wing, along with the twin rudders and afterburners. This steel bird is pretty insane. It's able to reach crazy speeds, has immaculate handling, and can even break the sound barrier. That's right, the sound barrier. That's a detail in this mod. I know. Not only that, but this mod is entirely survival ready, with complex methods of processing and progression rivaling other tech mods. Oh, and did I mention there's ponders? Dude, there's ponders in this, man. What? Granted, it is an extra add-on you're gonna have to download, but it is still impressive nonetheless. But now, we also need to talk about the weapons. Okay, so this rotary cannon can go on the plane. And yes, it actually does work. For this, we're gonna need something known as a control trigger. Once linked to the node, it will allow us to emit a redstone signal from the block right in the seat, resulting in this. Whoa. Right-clicking the control trigger with configure mode allows us to cycle through different channels, which you can then choose and activate inside of the control seat. Cycling through the channels can be configured in the keybinds menu along with the control trigger key, meaning you could have a channel dedicated to your primary fire, and another dedicated to your bombs.
Oh, bombing, initiating. Whoa.
Speaking of bombs, why don't we mount one to one of our planes? But instead of a dinky little fission bomb, how about a fusion bomb? Oh, now we're talking. According to the ponders of the fission bomb assembly, this is how it is normally composed of, with the ordnance core acting as an activation switch when given a redstone signal, or when directly connected to the control node. Now we can take the fission bomb out and replace it with the fusion bomb, which comes in two parts, the core and the module, filling it up with the same components as the fission bomb. Now the collective sum of all these parts weighs more than 14,000 kilograms, which none of my planes are able to handle. So it was time to give the jet a bit of an upgrade. All I did was add an extra jet engine and increase the surface area of the wings for extra lifts. I then linked the control trigger and mounted the fusion bomb, making sure everything was alright inside. Now all that was left to do was to fly.
Huh? Public service announcement from the Villager Nuclear Association.